Happy January, happy 2023. I'm kicking off the new year with a Chatty Work With Me because I didn't do one all December and I had a couple topics that I wanted to cover, but I just wanted to take the month off. And today's topic is going to be, I screwed up. I wanted to blame Poshmark for a really terrible month of sales, and I realized that the problem was partly my responsibility, and I think it'll be fun to talk about. So on that note, I have my timer here. I'm going to kick it off with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. All right. So shipping. I feel like if you take a month off from Chatty Work With Me, you start getting a little discombobulated. At least I do. So, okay. So basically I had my worst sales month ever on Poshmark, except for the first 2 months I was on Poshmark, which was July and August of 2018. Is that right? I think it was 2018. I had less than 500 items listed at those times, so I'm not including that because I was growing my closet at that point, and of course it takes time to start getting sales. But October of 2022, I only had a sales volume number of $1,500 on Poshmark. And I had all sorts of theories of why this was happening. I was going to make a video talking about Poshmark has gone downhill. I'm going to leave the platform, basically talking through my feelings, which is all I do in these because it's a topic to talk about. And all my goal of some of these topics is if you are experiencing something that I am, don't feel alone. It happens to all of us. There are good months and bad months. There are good things and bad things. And I don't want to ever come on here and be like pointing fingers at everything, but to be perfectly honest, Poshmark has done some things in the past that I think negatively contribute to what I wouldn't want the platform to do. And I'm only one person.
At the front.
Oh, is that my dog at the front? She's talking to me. I'm only one person. And so just because I think they should do something doesn't mean everyone agrees with that. And I'm aware of that. But I have obviously had a lot of frustration over the years with Poshmark because I've invested so much time, and all I've seen is a lot more time spent on that platform than other platforms, and I just don't like the fluff of Poshmark. So I thought when my sales were horrific, I think my third month on Poshmark, when I only had about 500 items listed, keep in mind in October I had 1,600 items listed on Poshmark. Backtrack to my third month on Poshmark, I only had 500 items listed and I made over $1,500 in sales. Now, a few things have changed, right? At that time, my third month on Poshmark, I wasn't on eBay. So, but I still had 1/3 of the items listed. And it just, to me, it was like, how have we gotten here? How has it gotten this bad? And of course, your gut reaction is always to look outside and go just start, picking things. So what were some things that I had assumptions about of why my sales tanked in October? I just always have this instinct of I don't care for Poshmark. I've been transparent about that. I think there are pros and cons to all platforms, including Poshmark. And I've shared pros in the past. And I think I'll share a few pros in this video later on. But overall, I just feel like Poshmark has wasted a lot of my time and life unnecessarily because they can automate things. And while they have made some improvements over the last year with some of that, my first 2 years, I didn't use any automation service. I was doing everything manually. I had a large closet and it sucked the life out of me. And I'm bitter about that. And I know, you shouldn't hold on to those things. And I also know, if you don't like something, just get off of it. I get all of that. But again, I've invested all this time to get all these items listed. To just drop off the platform is like all that work is gone. All that effort and time is gone. And I've said this before, I've always been somewhat optimistic or hopeful, not optimistic, hopeful that maybe Poshmark will make improvements. And they have. Slowly but surely they have made some improvements, and I hope that they will continue to make improvements. But my gut reaction anytime something goes wrong with Poshmark is Poshmark sucks. And is that the right attitude? No, I'm human. And I just have a lot of built up frustration towards the platform. I also contributed slow sales to, maybe it's all about Poshmark Lives. They've really stepped up their promotion of that. I don't do Poshmark Lives. I don't have any intention to do them. I don't knock people for doing that stuff. It's not how I'm going to shop or sell, and that's personal preference. And there's nothing wrong with having a personal preference. But I thought, okay, maybe their Poshmark Lives are doing so well that my Poshmark sales from non-lives are just going to slowly go down. And so I thought maybe that had something to do with it. Obviously, you could throw a whatnot in there of like, are there Poshmark buyers, non-resellers, but Poshmark buyers actually like transitioning over to platforms like whatnot? Who knows? I mean, there's a lot of like hearsay and assumptions from a lot of people on social media. And without data, I don't really believe any of it, including for myself. Again, we just have assumptions of why things could happen. But I thought that these live sales maybe were, doing so well that my sales were just going to keep going down. I also thought of like, well, maybe it's the recession. Obviously things are changing in the world, and some people are trying to be more sensitive of saving more and spending less. And, October, not many people are shopping for holidays. That typically is one of my better months. Not my best, but one of my better ones. And so it wasn't like I was thinking like, oh, people are shopping for Christmas gifts and all that. October is a time when it's like a transition in seasons. And I find that more people are time to buy jeans, time to buy sweaters, time to buy jackets. And I know that's not my entire closet, but I do have quite a bit of that stuff. So I thought, okay, maybe it's related to a recession or a possible recession. And that's why my sales have tanked. So again, those few things. I also kind of thought, and this is more like me blaming thrift stores, but ultimately, again, it could just be turned and I could just blame myself for this because I'm not thrifting as much or going to the bins as much, is I'm not finding as many high dollar items, because I don't have the time to go to the bins as often or thrifting as often. Maybe my sales have gone down because I'm not finding those high ticket items. I'm finding a lot of great bread and butter. I'm finding a few good pops, but nothing that's like Gossip Girl wardrobe that's going to sell for thousands in 1 month, that type of stuff. I wasn't finding any like uber crazy stuff. And I was kind of thinking like, well, that's the thrift store's fault, Why? It's not their fault. I know for a fact, it's just I'm busier right now, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that was my gut reaction or my gut assumption. And then the last thing I kind of thought of was I just feel like I'm getting a lot more lowball buyers, people sending lowball stuff, and I'm having to decline, and I'm having to, which actually, that is one of the things, not declining offers. I have notes for another Chatty work with me, and I'm always trying to like think of notes. Anyways, that was something that I might talk about at some point later this month. But so I kind of thought, maybe just the buyers' mindsets have changed. Maybe they're feeling like they're getting all these better deals with these live sales, these auctions, or those concepts, and maybe they just don't want to pay what they were paying before. And so because I'm not accepting these lowball offers, I'm getting less sales. So those were some of my assumptions. But it ultimately stemmed to Poshmark's the devil, which, again, I'm human, and is that always correct? No. Do I think that Poshmark is very flawed? Yes. And so because of that, I have those strong feelings. And that was that gut instinct. So what was the reality? Now, to be fair, I think all of those things could have contributed. And I think the other thing that is contributing is not only am I not thrifting as much, but I'm not necessarily listing less. I think that a lot of my reseller journey has been to maintain a certain number of listed items. So if I'm not selling as much, I'm not listing as much. And I set lofty goals on certain days where I want to get a lot done. But on average, I'm a part-time reseller. I have not been full-time or a full-time mindset in over a year. And that is because YouTube takes time. That is because real estate takes time, and definitely has taken a lot more time recently. But I put in part-time hours when I actually calculate it. So even when I was full-time with reselling, I still had YouTube and I was still churning out way more content back in the day. Nowadays, I'm only putting out 4 to 5 videos a month. I used to put out 7 to 8 a month. So things have shifted, and I think just coming to terms with the fact that I'm kind of comparing myself to 2 years ago versus today, when today I have a completely different work everything. So where am I going to put these? Also, I got this stress ball in my stocking. Or not my stocking. It was just a bag of, little stocking stuffers from my mom. And I have been sitting here. I'm obsessed. So thank you, Mom, for the stress ball. It's not that I'm even stressed. It's just something, fidgety to do. So how is it that in 11 minutes or 10 minutes of this video, I've only knocked out one pair of pants? Multitasking. Okay, so what's the reality? So basically, most of the bots and the automation services that you can get, I won't name any of the names, but they're out there. I've tried many of them. At the moment, I'm currently using one. I'm not recommending any because there's some issues with all of them, but they all pretty much function the same. You can set up auto sharing, you can set up auto offers, you can set up things like auto follows and auto sharing of other people's stuff and stuff that I don't necessarily need or use, but all these automation services or companies pretty much do a lot of the same thing. Are any of them better than the other? I mean, I definitely had a preference at one point, but these days I don't. And they all pretty much do what they say they're going to do. So it's just a matter of what you get used to. And then if you don't like change, then you just stick with it. And the cost is somewhat different a little bit, but for the most part, they all kind of do what they say they're going to do. And if you don't know about Poshmark automation, while Poshmark has made some changes in their app and their website where you can actually kind of do bulk shares these days, it's a little fidgety, or it still requires quite a bit of like pushing and buttons, and it's not as seamless as it could be. Because what it could be is what some of these automation services and tools can do. So what are the 3 or 4 big ones? There's Vendoo, Prime Lister, List Perfectly. There's one that I'm intrigued to try, something called One All or One Share or One something. Anyways, I'll keep you posted if I decide to try that this year. But they all are approximately the same amount of money. They all approximately offer the same services. Many of them, or most of them, I think also do cross listing. So if you sell on more than one platform, you can cross list your items and it saves you a little bit of time. And it does. I've timed it and it does. So I really like it for a lot of these for the cross listing, but I also like the fact that you can automate some of your Poshmark stuff. And I've been using them for about 2 years, and to set up scheduled sharing times where it just shares my whole closet, it's great. I don't have to worry about it. Things are getting shared. I have a large closet. And again, saving some time on cross-listing is helpful. But I don't really focus on it too much. So it's just kind of set. And occasionally there's like an update that you have to run. And occasionally I decide, I want to change my sharing time, but I don't really fidget with it too much. And so my automation is set to share my closet a few times a day, basically early morning, afternoon, and evening. And then I use it almost, a couple times a week to cross-list my items from eBay to Poshmark. And I just don't think of it anymore. Like I don't go in there and like tinker with things. I don't, it's just set. So after I had this terrible month on October, I was like, what in the world? So I was legitimately like writing down notes because I was thinking I was going to make this video and talk about how I've lost it with Poshmark. And I went to look at some of my data, and it was offered to likers. That percentage compared to some other months was lower. And I was like, that's weird. I have it set up so my automation service automatically sends offers on any liked items. And apparently, I don't know when it happened, I don't know how it happened, but apparently It just stopped sending offers. So for an entire month, approximately, I was not sending any offers on liked items, which is a good chunk of my sales. Is I send out offers to people who like an item, and an hour later they'll get an offer from me. It's usually 20%. Again, it's automated, and people accept that, or some of them counter and they want just a little bit more, or they counter and they lowball me and I just ignore or decline. But it's a way to strike up a offer conversation. And I realized that it was no longer set on my automation service to do that. And I was like, oh my gosh. So all this time I'm sitting here and I'm just distracted by all of this stuff going on in my life. And I never once thought, wow, my sales. And I guess it's because I really only look at how my sales are doing once a month, like I just glance in there. How'd I do last month? Great, not great, whatever. But I'm not like studying my data every day. Partly because, again, I'm just part-time reseller and I just don't have the time to stress. But I couldn't believe that here I was building up all this frustration. Courtney, can you lint roll and talk at the same time? I was just building up all this frustration towards Poshmark and just thinking it was over. And then I realized that while not all of it is contributed to that, probably a big chunk of why my sales tanked was because I wasn't even sending offers, because I didn't check up on my automation tool. And I don't even know if I really would have. I mean, this is what sparked me to look. Oh gosh, hold on. The dog was outside and I thought I heard a car, and I'm getting my fence finished, and I didn't know if they were coming today since it's not raining today. And so I was worried that maybe she was out there harassing fence guys. I'll talk about the fence later in the video when I talk personal updates. But anyways, so I think I'm relieved to know there was an issue. Have my sales bounce back completely? Well, November and December typically aren't my best months anyways. And they're not that far off from the previous year. So it's hard to tell, but they did go up a little bit from October when I figured out the offer issue, and I'll just have to keep monitoring. But this isn't like I'm sorry, Poshmark, it's, you're not the fault, you're not the problem. I think Poshmark is making some changes, as most companies should. They should make changes that they feel are right for their business. And so if they think this live thing is something they want to continue to push hard, and that's the direction they're really wanting to focus, they have that right. And it might impact my sales because I'm not going to do those types of sales. But in this situation, I was partly responsible for less sales in October. And I think if there's anything I don't care for, or it's not that I don't care for, people can do whatever they want. But the people I appreciate the most and respect the most are the ones that are willing to say, hey, I screwed up, or hey, I was wrong, or, in this situation, hey, Poshmark wasn't the only reason. I am also part of the reason of why I didn't have a great sales month in October. And I mean, this is $1,500 before fees are taken out, before cost of goods. I had over 1,600 items listed in October, and to have, probably a profit, it's always easy for me just to kind of divide things in half when you start looking at things. But, I don't know how anyone is surviving on Poshmark other than some people. That's where they spend all their time. They put a lot more effort into it. I don't. Again, I kind of try and automate as much as possible. But I will forever, Poshmark in 2022 was the lowest amount of income from real estate, from YouTube, and from eBay. Now, if you combine eBay and Poshmark, real estate was technically below that. But for the amount of effort I put into reselling, and to have Poshmark be the longest thing I've done, I will always be like, why can't it be doing better? And some would argue, well, you're not doing what Poshmark wants you to do. And right now they're really pushing the lives, but that's not where I want to sell. That's not how I want to sell. And I feel like I need a sip. And that's just, again, a personal choice. But in this situation, I was wrong for assuming Poshmark was 100% to blame. And on that note, I'm going to take a quick pause for the sponsor of today's video, which is my favorite, absolutely the biggest supporter of this channel, which is Green Chef. So for lunch today, I'm making this incredible maple carrot power bowl. And I've never tried this recipe, but it has so many delicious ingredients and it looks like an incredible sauce on top. And I also did something different this week. I added a custom chef modification. So sometimes they allow you to customize some of the meals by adding a different protein. And in this situation, I decided to add some salmon on top, and they made that really easy. So if you are new to this channel and you don't know what Green Chef is, it is a CCOF certified organic company, and they have options for every lifestyle. So you can order keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, fast and fit, Mediterranean, and gluten-free. I tend to order a lot of Mediterranean meals, but I also like to mix and match just depending on my mood for the week. So this meal that I'm cooking up right now, honestly, this might be in my top 5, and I've been eating Green Chef for over a year. I started buying them way before they sponsored me, and I was so pleasantly surprised by how delicious this one is. Here I am putting the sauce on, and I'm about to top it with the salmon, but I really love trying to get new recipes to try with different ingredients that I just personally would not think of. And it also supports my healthy lifestyle, which really is meaningful for me. So if you haven't tried Green Chef yet and you are wanting to, you can use my code COMMONTAGS60 to get 60% off plus free shipping. All you have to do is go to greenchef.com for more details. And I'm just going to sit here and enjoy this delicious meal. Honestly, this is going to be ordered again. It was just the most perfect combination of ingredients. Big thank you to Green Chef for continuing to support this channel and making my week so delicious with all of these amazing meals. So back to the chatty work with me. So basically, I'm glad that that happened, because then I was able to kind of dig in and realize, like, I don't know if I would have noticed that my automation for sending out offers was, not working or not turned on. And again, I don't know how it happened. It could have been that maybe there was an update or something and it changed my settings. I don't know. But it is what it is. I can't go back. It's fine. Everything's fine. I'm hopeful that, spring, which is typically one of my better, I think my best month is typically April, if I recall correctly. April or May. I don't know. I'd have to go in and look at my numbers from all the years, but it's basically spring is a really good time for me with sales. January is usually a little slow after my sale, but things start to kind of slowly pick up in February, and then March is usually a good time, and April is usually a good time. So, and everyone's kind of different. I hear resellers that sell pre-owned used clothing, women's clothing, that say, November is their best month. It's not a terrible month for me, but it's not my best. So I think we're all a little bit different. But that's what I discovered. And, I went in and had the settings set again, and I started getting some sales because I was sending offers again. So that is the update. So a few other things that I thought I would talk about. Why am I so hard on Poshmark? I think I briefly talked about this, but just to reiterate, it's because I've been on it the longest. I've wasted a lot of time doing some manual things that I just don't agree with. I was hopeful that they were going to make some improvements to their algorithm or create an algorithm, but instead they've just reverted back to what worked for them. And I think they made some mistakes last year of trying to test new things without communicating to people, and that obviously upset people. I'm all for companies and making improvements, and sometimes that comes with some fumbles, and I am okay with that. But I was really hopeful that Poshmark was going to head in a direction of what makes the most sense to make the most money for both sellers and for Poshmark. And right now I think they're distracted with live sales, and they're really going all after that. And it is what it is. It's not my only platform, thankfully. And I also have to respect that my life is evolving and changing, my reselling life. And so I do play a part in it as well. But I also just have never liked the fluff of Poshmark. I would never take money for any sort of sponsorship or mention or work with in any way, shape, or form Poshmark or eBay or ThredUp or any of these companies that I don't ever want there to be any question about my authenticity about them. And, you know, I can come on here and I can share the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs, and I don't have to worry, oh, are they going to cut a sponsorship? And I'm always honest with my sponsorships, but I would definitely be more sensitive if I was working with any of these companies and getting paid by any of these companies. I would definitely probably hold back on some stuff. And I don't want to do that because I think this channel is to be transparent and open and honest, but also to accept that I am flawed and no reseller is perfect. And also people put the highlights reel up. So people posting numbers, it's like at this point, it makes me laugh, you know, because it just doesn't tell a whole story. And I know that when I was not younger, a new reseller, it was impressive to see what people were capable of. But as I've learned, it doesn't include everything. If people aren't telling you the breakdown, and some people do, some people really do go in hard with all the details, but they might not be transparent about truthfully how much work they're putting in. But I remember seeing some people and they would flash around these, oh my gosh, look at these sales, look at this. But then you realize that they're spending a lot more on custom goods than you are. And they're not sharing that. And I think what I've learned is just to chill, find the people who are not afraid to share when they've messed up, not out there trying to prove something to the world, and also not out there trying to say there's one way to do this, because there's just not. And, you know, so for me, I want to be able to always be transparent and honest and share the good and the bad with some of these things. And so that's why I would never work with any of these companies ever. And I think it's what keeps me the most honest and real. Because I don't necessarily trust, I don't trust others when I see them working with companies like this, because they're probably withholding some of the reality, or I don't know. It's just, that's my own thoughts. Okay, what else did I put on here? So some things that I do like about Poshmark, because I always feel like when I have a video like this, I'm totally taking responsibility that my sales probably partly went down because of Poshmark and some of the changes in the direction they're going. And that's my own choice for not doing Poshmark lives. Could I have better sales on Poshmark if I did that? Maybe. There's no, I don't have anything to compare it to. Some people are doing well. Some people, I think, are finding out it's not for them and their personality. But could I be doing better on Poshmark if I decided to go that route? Maybe, but it's just not something I have time for or that I want to do. But I do like some of the changes that Poshmark made this year. And I can't think of them all, because would it be a day without me being having no memory? So I can't remember everything that they did, but a couple of the things that I do like, and typically have always liked. I think Poshmark does a really great job of being easy for new people, easy for new buyers, easy for new sellers. They have simple shipping. I think the user interface is easy to look at. It's not too overly complicated, and it's not, too simple. I think that they have added some layers to it. And so I think the ease of use with Poshmark will always be one of the best things about it. Now, I still get people who are confused by things, and they'll ask, a seller, I can't figure out how to bundle. I wish Poshmark maybe had an easy way to help in those situations. And it's not always common sense, and it doesn't always make sense to everyone. But for the most part, I think people just get it. And so that's something I like. The simple shipping, I don't mind complex shipping. I actually enjoy figuring out, I don't know. It's not that I necessarily enjoy it. It's just, it doesn't, at this point, because I've done eBay shipping for so long, I'm not scared to ship things on my own. I've shipped printers, I've shipped some really odd shaped, delicate items. And I think it's just fun to add to the mix at times, so it doesn't overwhelm me. But I do like the fact that I don't even have to think about it with Poshmark. It just kind of saves one more thing that I don't have to think about, and it gets people selling, and it keeps things easy. So I do like that. I do wish they had some things that are different. I'm running a sale when I'm filming this. The sale will be over by the time you're watching this, but it's my semi-annual sale. I do this every January 1st through the 4th, and sometimes people want to buy large bundles, and every year I've just kind of shipped them no questions asked, but they've cracked down recently where I've gotten emails from Poshmark saying, hey, we noticed this bundle was over our 5-pound limit. You can purchase an additional label, which I never have. Because it's just coming out of my cost. So, and you can only go up to 10 pounds, I believe. I've had bundles that are more than 10 pounds. So the fact that they're tracking down with that, I get why they're doing it, but they also have just kind of flat rates with USPS. So, it's fine if they want to crack down on it. It's just, I think the reason why it's always been kind of simple is they just assume that a lot of Poshmark sellers are selling out of their closet. They're not using a scale, but most people aren't doing bundles of 10 plus items. And really the only time I typically do those kinds of things is when I run a sale and someone, adds a whole bunch of items. But I do wish they had something for us if we needed to go over 10 pounds. And also maybe not just put the cost on the seller. Like if a buyer wants to put a bundle together and it exceeds the 5-pound limit, I wish there was a way to say, hey, buyer, you want these items, it exceeds the limit. Do you want to pay the additional shipping or do you want to remove some items? Versus just having the seller eat the cost. Because especially when I'm running a sale, I'm not going to start paying additional discounts for large shipping, if that makes sense. So I do wish that Poshmark would continue to make improvements with their shipping. And it's okay if they want to hold us accountable for the weight, but then, what happens to the person who really doesn't have a scale? Like they really can't weigh it. And I'm sure that they've got something figured out for that. But what other things do I like about Poshmark? They added some data this year. I think it was earlier this year. And while it's not as complicated or as it could be for, data nerds, it's something and it's pretty easy to use. And I think that's kind of the bar that Poshmark sets. They just kind of keep things simple. They don't want to overcomplicate things. And most people don't want to know every detail of data. They just want to get an idea of how did I do this month compared to last month's or previous months. They want to know, just some basics. And I think that Poshmark has done a good job of making improvements with that. Because when I first started, there was zero data. And it was really, really frustrating for me because I do like to know how I'm doing. And yes, you can buy data things from other people, and I like spreadsheets, but not everyone does. So I'm glad that Poshmark integrated some data because I think it keeps something just quick to look at. And then I think they added conversations after a sale, or bundle. No, they always had bundle. You could always make conversations, but now you can have a direct conversation if someone buys something from you. Which I like. I think that if you have a transaction that's open, you should have a way to communicate with that person, and it shouldn't just be in the notes section or the comment section of an item. So I think it's good that they have made some improvements over the year. There's something else that they did in the last year approximately, and the one thing I really like is when they notify people if an offer has been placed on an item they like, they will notify the other likers. I love that feature. Even this morning, I had someone that made a bundle offer on my sale, and I didn't see it right away. I was distracted. I was going to pull some items out of my storage shed, and when I came back and I saw it, there was also another person that put an offer on one of the items in her bundle. Now, I accepted the bundle first because that was for my sale, and that was the offer that came in first, but I think it triggered that other liker, hey, someone put an offer on this, you better come in and so I like that feature. I think it gives a little bit of an incentive to a liker to say, hey, before this is sold, do you want to come in and try and see if maybe you can give a better offer or buy it full price? Because that's happened before too. I won't see an offer right away, and then someone else swoops in and buys it full price. And it's that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I guess the only reason I'm highlighting a few of these things is Poshmark gives me some hope sometimes that they will continue to make improvements. Right now, I haven't seen many improvements recently because I think they are just so focused on lives. But yeah, okay, so let's see. Some things that I'm hopeful that Poshmark will change this year. Kind of what is my expectation of the future with Poshmark? I've always said this, which it's actually coming really close. If Poshmark becomes that lowest paying thing for me and I just don't need the additional money each month because it's not bringing in all the, I can't pay my bills with Poshmark. If it ever got to a point where it was holding me back from making more money doing something else, then I would drop it. I don't know if that's going to happen this year. And I think that, again, it's what got me into reselling. So there is a bit of a loyal aspect there of like, Poshmark is flawed. I'm flawed. Everyone's flawed. Every company is flawed. And yes, I don't like the direction they're going on some things, but I just can't see myself after this many years. Like this will be my 5th year reselling. I'll hit 5 years this year of reselling. And all of that has been with Poshmark. And I just can't see myself. I don't know. I don't know what my future looks like, other than I just hope that they continue to make improvements. But I am becoming better about lowering my expectations with Poshmark. And I think it's really good that I am making money doing other things because I'm not stressed about Poshmark. Because I think when I'm stressed about Poshmark and I'm stressed about my Poshmark sales, I tend to not like Poshmark as much. Now I just don't really care. It's kind of almost like a bonus money, if that makes sense. And so I'm not like riled up about it. Now I was riled up about it in October when I realized, how is it possible that I have over 1,600 items listed and I'm making less money than on my 3rd month on Poshmark when I only had 500 items listed? Like I was that gut instinct of like, why is Poshmark the devil? But then I realized, again, there are multiple factors there. It's not just Poshmark. And because I'm not as dependent on the money, it makes me not stress. And so I just don't think about it as much. So lowering my expectations with Poshmark, it's a bonus at this point, and I'm okay with that. I will continue to evaluate the time it takes for me to cross-list items from eBay to Poshmark. Is that worth the additional payout that I get from Poshmark? And I think it is, because cross-listing for me is pretty quick. I don't do it all the time. I usually only cross-list items about once a week. For right now, it contributes to sales, and it doesn't take me much time. The main time to list is on eBay because that's where I list first. So why am I tying this? So I think that, as of right now, it makes sense from a time perspective, but we'll see. I mean, if it started getting worse and worse and worse, and I was only like getting, profiting $200 a month on Poshmark, and I was investing that time in a cross-listing service, paying for that, and for the time it takes to cross-list, I would have to reevaluate. But at this moment, I think it's worth the time, but we'll see. What else? I think I'm also constantly reminding myself, partly because of you guys and your comments, and I just know that like what I want from Poshmark is not what everyone wants from Poshmark. Some people really love the social side of Poshmark, and I don't knock people for that. It's just not my personality type. I am just kind of I'm not a dry person, although I'm pretty dry at times. I'm just, when it comes to work, I want to be efficient, and I can't be efficient with Poshmark to my liking. And there's things that I wish, like here are a few things that I hope that Poshmark will consider this year. Not that they're watching this video because I bash them too much, but if I could ask for 3 things this year from Poshmark. Oh my gosh, these are like faux leather pants and I can't get them. They're kind of like stuck. So we're just going to leave you stuck. More automation. So they've made some improvements in helping people share. It's just not as simple as it could be. I feel like you could just click one button, share my whole closet in the order, bottom to top or whatever. It can be more simple, and it's just not. But they made a big improvement, and I'm thankful for that for everyone who was manually sharing before. Allow users to run sales. So I run a sale for social media people, YouTube and Instagram, 2 times per year. I never advertise it on Poshmark. I never advertise it on eBay. It's just for people who support this channel and support my Instagram and see the things that I pick up and I share. But it would be nice at times if I wanted to run a sale, like I can run sales on eBay. It's not always the most simple thing to figure out, but it's there. There are a lot of options to do that. Or like just bring down the price on everything for like a weekend, like I just want a weekend, like 4th of July sale or something, and you just want to bring down the price on everything with a click of a button somewhat and just bring down the price. To me, that seems like it would be good for Poshmark because it would push out sales, but it's not easy. So I hope that they figure out a way for us to run sales. And then the last thing, my third thing that I hope Poshmark does this year is allow us to send partial refunds. What I mean by that is, when you're a seller on eBay, you're kind of responsible for pretty much everything. You're just using the platform to be connected to buyers and to promote your items. So you're using the tool as like, I'm using this platform, but I am the seller and I am here for all things that go wrong. Poshmark, on the other hand, is I don't have control. I don't take the money from them. Poshmark takes the money from them. They hold it until it's shipped and delivered and, had enough time. And then they give me my payout. They take their fees. So I don't even versus like eBay, you actually have to kind of pay your fees. I guess it's kind of different but whatever. So it's Poshmark that pays me on behalf of the buyer. The buyer doesn't pay me directly, which is different than eBay. And there are times when someone creates a bundle of like 4 things and I can't find one thing. And I send them a message. I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. And I would just love to accept the bundle. Or maybe I've already accepted it. This is more like it. I've accepted it. I can't find an item. It happens to the best of us. Who cares? Do you just want to communicate and just apologize and say, I'm so sorry. I can't find this item. Instead, you have to cancel the whole order bundle. And you can't just remove an item. And they can't just be partially refunded for that item. So I wish there was a way for Poshmark to figure out partial refunds because it's just kind of annoying that you have to manually go in, cancel the order, manually go and relist everything, and then ask the person, hey, I'll create this bundle for you, but then you actually have to go pay again. It's just kind of a clunky system when I think there's a way to make it more simple, which would be partial refunds, just have a way for a seller to remove an item or, even when I haven't had this happen to me in years, but like if someone gets a bundle of, let's say 4 things, and one of the things is flawed, my understanding, unless something has changed, is that you have to, they would have to send back the whole bundle of stuff to get refunded instead of, hey, one of these 4 items is flawed. I don't want to send everything back. I just want to have some sort of, payment for this flawed item or whatever. And right now, I don't think there's any simple way to do that. So, one can hope that they'll continue to make improvements. Those are a few. You guys can let me know down below which improvements you would want Poshmark to make, but more automation. And I'm not even going to go there with live sales. If people are liking them and they're doing well, to me, all the shipping required, no thank you. Every time I run these sales, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much shipping, and it's just too much. So for me, that's one of the biggest reasons I won't do live sales, because I don't want to do more shipping than I have to. But also it's not how I want to shop. It's, I've had a whole video talk about that. But so that's kind of, let me see if I missed anything on my notes. And also just, I think I said this at the beginning at some point, is, some people are like, for example, anytime I see someone that makes a post on Instagram of, oh my gosh, this thrift store and their pricing, it's crazy, they get this stuff for free. I'm just always like, my instant gut reaction is, if you don't like a thrift store's prices, go somewhere else. I just don't understand. Like, I drive hours to go to different thrift stores. Some of them price a little higher than others. Some have better deals, and I keep those to myself. And like for Goodwill, for example, in Southern California, if they mark something up too high, they have a markdown system. So I can get it there at 25% off, or a week later at 50% off, or a week later, or a day in that 50% off time, I can get it for $2, or it ends up at the bins. So there's a markdown system for it. And I appreciate that, because then it's like, if they did go too high, now not every Goodwill is the same, and I understand that and I respect that. But for me, there are some thrift stores that are non-Goodwills in Southern California that I'm like, do people buy this at this prices? And they don't have markdown sales. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is baffling. I'm not going to name any names because it is what it is. I just don't go to them. So because I always have this mindset, if you don't like something, just don't. Like, if you don't like me, don't watch me. If you don't like a thrift store, don't shop there. If I don't like Poshmark, don't sell there. Like, I can't emphasize that I understand this enough. I just will forever kind of have this hopeful aspect that Poshmark will someday not torture me. And I don't know if that day will ever come because I just have so much bitterness from my first couple years and the time wasted. So yeah, but, oh, there we go. I don't know if it lined up with my screen because I did have the little fiasco with the dog running outside. But let's take a break. Let's go check on the dog who's looking at me very sad. And I'll tell you about some personal stuff. I know, do you want to come say, oh no, you have to come over here, right here. And then you say hello. Okay, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. Can you say hi to your friends? Do you want to tell them about your fence and the improvements that are happening? I know. So I'm really glad she came over here because I don't have any TREATS. Is that how you spell it? Right, Boo? I know. Did you have an upset tummy this morning? You did. For anyone's asking, she's doing great on her meds. Haven't missed any yet. I've come close a couple times where I've had to race home and I'm a little delayed, but it's working out. She hasn't had any seizures since she's been taking the medication, and she's still got her energy. One of the things I was worried, well, not really worried because she's got so much energy. I was like, if it tones down a little bit, I wouldn't be the most sad, but she still has a lot of psychotic energy. Right, Boo? I know. I need to. So Luna's good. We've had quite a bit of rain in the last week. And so usually she likes to sit outside, do her guard dog duties. And when it's raining, and we've had a lot of rain for our areas, which is good because we're in a drought, but then it's also creating crazy flooding and whatever. Some of it's been a little snow here, but we were kind of coming off of a little bit of a heat wave when the rest of the country was freezing. Christmas in LA was 80 degrees or something wild. So, we haven't had a lot of snow with this storm, and I'm sorry, am I talking too much? Okay, you want to go sit in the sun. Okay, good stretch. Good talk, dog. Way to go. So anyways, I've talked about this in some video, or maybe just Instagram, but my first real estate sale was all the commission money went to the IRS for taxes for everything for 2022. So it was a prepayment. And then my second real estate sale, my goal was to divide it up in 4. And that's kind of what I'm going to do moving forward. So that a fourth goes to savings, a fourth goes to taxes, a fourth goes to my retirement account, and then a fourth goes to a home project or traveling. And since I have a lot of home projects that I haven't really gotten to since I've been self-employed, pretty much almost the entire time I've lived here, home projects are expensive, and reselling doesn't give me bundles of, excess money at times. So, and then, COVID, obviously the uncertainty with that. And I've had emergency home situations, like my slab leak. I had to get all my pipes moved up from the ground for the water. And then 6 months later, the gas pipes needed to move up. And so I'm still waiting to finish painting some of my walls from that. But so there's been expenses, but nothing like finishing my fence was a big one. I had 3/4 of my fence done. It's on my flat usable land. Some of my land goes off a cliff. And the last side is a side with trees. So the not the previous owner, but the original owner of this cabin, because it was a second home originally, they put in trees, and they put it where it's kind of here's the property line, and the trees kind of go like this. So it some of the trees are on my side, some of the trees are on my neighbor's side. Now he owns over 5 acres. I own a couple acres. It's not that big of a deal, but I was going to get the property or that side surveyed. And then it was this whole ordeal of trying to get a survey out here. And then I had some weird conversations. Finally, I just decided, I talked to my neighbor and I said, I already maintain these trees by keeping them trimmed up, by dealing with the weeds around them. This is my plan. Do you have any objection? He said, no, this will make it easier. If I put the fence on his side of the trees, it will make it easier for me to continue to maintain those trees. And it's a lot of trees on a long part of my property. And so we agreed on that. And I just decided if they ever sell their house and it's another owner, it's again, it's just me trying to maintain that area easily. Whereas if I put the fence on my side, these trees would be in between our fences and they would just be hard to get to and they would be hard to maintain. So we agreed on that. I do need to use a little bit of savings to pay for the entire fence. I mean, this fence is like, it's good wire, it's hog wire. It's, the wood has gotten more expensive. And so it's a well done fence and it's pricey and this is the longest side. So this side of the fence is close to $5,000 just to finish that. And, so part of my commission and a little bit of my savings is going to finish the fence, which will mean that the dog can run around on over an acre of flat land willy-nilly. She can go wild. And I'll still take her on walks. She still needs that exercise because she's not the best at playing, but she can go do her guard dog duties off a leash because she's been tied up to a tree for 5 years of me living here. And she likes just being outside. You know, she's a dog and I won't keep her out there like when I'm not home or anything like that. Like she's still going to be, you know, but at least when I'm home and I'm working, she can be outside. I can hear if she's barking at anything. She can go check out the neighbor dogs and see who's walking on the street, you know, that type of stuff. She could go be her dog self. And because before I lived here, it was an apartment. We didn't have a yard or anything like that. So she's never had a dog. She's never had a dog life with like running around a yard. So, and I have a big yard. So I'm just so excited. They started the work before the rain. They put in the posts and the cement stuff, and they still need to finish the wire and the horizontal wood, but hopefully they'll be able to finish that this week. And it's just one thing off my list of I've been waiting for years. I started that fence. I had the other sides of the fence done 4 years ago, and it's been me waiting for 4 years to finish the fence. And so it's so great. But my next couple houses, or my next probably 4 or 5 houses that I sell, 2, which will hopefully close this month, my extra 1/4 of the money for me to spend is going to be saving for an air conditioner. So that's going to be, I think a mini split for my house is going to run around $8,000. I have an A-frame, so there's no insulation or attic space. So a mini split is what I have been told will work best for my house. It's small enough that there's a size that will work. And so I'm just really excited, but that's my next thing to save for. So, and that'll be a few houses because again, it's not my entire commission check that's going to it. It's just 1/4 of my commission checks that's going to an expense. So yeah, we'll see. Right now I've got an escrow closing this week. And this has been my hardest one so far because we've had some huge obstacles to deal with, not at the fault of the buyer or the seller, but just an outside issue. And it has been a bit of a nightmare. I think we've worked through it. I'm just so relieved. I will be so relieved to have this one done because it has just taken so much time of communication between all parties. And so I'm just like, I just want this one done. The next one that I'm in escrow on will close in a couple weeks. And that one it's more of an emotional one. Like it's a really excited buyer, but also kind of nervous. And she's great. And so hopefully these 2 go smoothly in the next couple weeks. I don't have anything lined up. I don't have any really active buyers. I have some buyers that I keep in touch with. A couple that I've shown properties to, but they're not like the most serious at the moment, but I get, 2 or 3 new people reaching out each week. A lot of people are kind of looking at spring as kind of a good time to start looking. So we'll see. I wouldn't mind a little bit of a break with real estate, just like a month of no escrows, because I'm pretty wiped. 3 at one point, so I had my $1 million one. I don't know when I last shared this. My $1 million sale closed a couple weeks ago, and which was great. That's what's helping to pay for the fence. But so that one was great. But when I was in escrow on that one, I had these other 2 that were just getting started. And when you're in escrow, there's different things that happen at different times. And it was just a lot of dealing with 3 different other agents, 3 different buyers, all the paperwork that needs to be done at certain times, all the inspections that need to be done at different times. It was just a lot, and I was overwhelmed. And I think 3 is definitely my max because unless you have a team of people and you can kind of take things, and I do have someone that helps with my paperwork, a transaction coordinator, and I pay a small amount for that for each of these transactions, but that's not the person that deals with all the back and forth communication or all the inspections in person or showing houses and all of that stuff. So it's a lot of work. It's more work than I ever anticipated because it's a month full of potential things that can go wrong, potential emotions getting the best of them. It's fun. It's getting me out of my house. I'm meeting really interesting people, and it's great to hand keys to people. So I'm really happy that I have this in my life right now, and I am okay with the fact that it will probably be a lot of this. It'll be like when it rains, it pours, and all of a sudden I have 3 escrows at one period, and then it will be times of quietness. And because that doesn't pay my bills, I'm okay with that. So what else was on my list of updates? Holidays were good. It was a little bittersweet, without my dad, but he wasn't like a big Christmas person. So, I mean, he was always there at Christmas events and stuff, obviously, but I mean, it wasn't like his favorite holiday or something that reminds me of him, but still kind of bittersweet. But it was nice. It was nice to spend some time with family. I think I would have spent more time with them if I didn't have the craziness of the escrows, but it is what it is. And I'm just thankful that I have some escrows, and so no complaints on my side. What else is there to talk about? The fence, real estate. I feel like I wrote down notes, but then of course my computer's over there. I feel like I should just go get my computer or go look at my computer. That's what I'll do. I know what there is. I had my car towed yesterday, so I'm currently borrowing. My mom has technically 2 cars now because one's my dad's, and she has a plan to get rid of one of her cars at some point. But so right now she has 2. And 2 days ago on New Year's Day, is that what day we're on? Yeah, today's the 3rd when I'm filming this. So I went to go take my trash. So we have central trash here because of wildlife. So I don't have trash pickup at my house. So it's about 2 miles to our trash location. And so I just put it in my trunk. I take, my bag or whatever. And it's pretty much downhill. And I was going to take the dog for a WALK, right? I know. She's sitting right here staring at me. She's sitting in the sun. So I was going to take her, and I get partially down the hill, and all of a sudden a check engine light comes on and another light with like a lightning bolt. I was like, oh gosh. And it started like chugging along. And so I'm like, oh gosh. So there was a little bit of a street turn right there. So I pulled a U-turn. I was like, please just make it back up the hill to my house, because then I don't have to deal with like being on the side of the road. And it's not like we have these are mountain roads, like there's no whatever. So I chug along. It's like really having a hard time going up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, please let me get home. Please let me get home. So I make it back home. I park it. And I'm like, you're sitting there. And I've got AAA. I swear I have called AAA probably my max amount of times this year already. I think I renew in May. But I think you get 4 calls a year. And I think this is my 4th call this year. So anything future before May, I will have to pay additional if I want a towing service. But the auto place is about 25 minutes from my house, 20 minutes technically, because it's on this closer to my house on this side of the town. But it's 20 minutes away. And so, yeah, I have to get it towed if there's like a check engine light and it's not. Whatever. So I didn't call on the 1st because I was thinking they're probably going to be low on people. So I called yesterday, the 2nd. And my mom actually came up here. She lives an hour from me. She came up here. She picked me up, took me back to her house. I took one of the cars back home. I needed to go do a real estate inspection yesterday. And so I didn't want to cancel that. So I called the tow truck driver. He comes to pick up my car to take it to the auto place, which was closed yesterday. Of course, these things happen on a holiday weekend. And so then I've got a temporary car, my dad's old car, and I'm actually on airplane mode right now. So they're probably trying to call me as we speak to give me an update. But what the issue was it said electronic throttle control. Now my car has 115,000 miles on it. It hasn't had much issues except for some wires being chewed by rodents and just some general maintenance. Like there's an occasional, like a new battery, that type of stuff. But it's been pretty low key. But this thing, electronic throttle control, is important, and it might cost me like $500 or $600, which is a bummer. But hopefully that's all it is, and they could just get it fixed. But that's been my ordeal in the last couple days. Happy New Year to me. But yeah, that's basically all. It's just busy with real estate, but I'm not complaining. I'm so thankful. I'm going to be happy when this one escrow closes this week, but also tense, making sure that it all works out. And my fence will be done soon, and the dog will be able to run around like a good dog. So, right, Boo? You don't even know it's coming. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this chatty work with me. I will be back with another video soon. And yeah, be sure to hit the thumbs up. It means a lot. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.